All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Candidate Forum for the Crow Wing County Sheriff and Board of Commissioners. Thank you for attending tonight or watching on Facebook. I'm Matt Killian. I'm the president of the Brainerd Lakes Chamber of Commerce, and I will serve as your moderator this evening. And before we begin, could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's forums are brought to you by the League of Women Voters, the Brainerd Dispatch, and the Brainerd Lakes Chamber, with support from the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation and Bladec. We also thank the Crow Wing County Land Services Department for hosting us here this evening. Tonight we will begin with the Crow Wing County Sheriff's candidates. Then in about an hour or so, we will take a brief break and transition to the candidates for Crow Wing County Commissioner. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few points. Please remain as quiet as possible while the candidates are speaking so that everyone can hear. Also, please hold your applause until the forum has ended. We ask you politely to turn off or silence your cell phone. No photography or recording, besides the photography and recording we've paid for tonight, will be allowed during the forum. Today's event is live streamed on the Brainerd Lakes Chamber Facebook page, and a recording will also be available on our website after the forum at brainerdlakeschamber.com. Please know that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the forum organizers. None of us endorse candidates, and we don't endorse political parties. Please refer to your programs for information on the races. As audience members, you are welcome to submit written questions for the candidates either on the question cards provided or by posting a comment on Facebook. If you need a question card, please raise your hand and someone will pick it up, deliver one if you need one, or pick it up if you have a completed question. So don't be shy about that, please. And again, if you're on Facebook, please post a comment. We have people monitoring that as well. Please keep in mind that submitted questions are kept anonymous and must be addressed to all candidates. Those that are unclear, hostile, or of a personal nature will not be used. We reserve the right to screen the questions and often rephrase or consolidate them. If you do not get a chance to ask your question, or if an answer is unclear to you, feel free to speak to the candidates after the forum. Both forums will operate the same way, with one exception. I'll get to that in a minute. But each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for an opening statement, and then I will ask a series of prepared questions with up to 1-minute responses. Candidates then will have 30 seconds to make a closing statement at the end, and we'll rotate the order of answering to keep it fair. Because we only have 2 candidates for the Sheriff's Forum, we're adding one additional activity here. Each candidate will have 2 and only 2 opportunities to make a 30-second rebuttal or additional comment. So you're going to see them have cards that say 1 and 2 on them. They will indicate their intention to do this by holding up one of those cards. I will call on them after the other candidate finishes speaking. So before we begin, please give the candidates, the community sponsors, the venue, and the volunteers a big round of applause. All right, gentlemen, we're going to begin with opening statements. And again, they have 1.5 minutes to respond. We're going to begin to my right with Scott Goddard. 1.5 minutes.
All right. Well, my speaker is working. That's good news. Good evening, everyone. Looking around, it kind of feels like we're a jewelry pool. No one could find something better tonight to do on this beautiful evening. But certainly, thank you for attending. Those online, thank you for taking time. As your current sheriff, I would like to say we've had a busy 4 years. I mean, we really have. We started out with, I got a little feedback. Are you guys getting that? Okay.
I think they're taking care of it.
Moving over a little bit.
Go ahead.
We've had a busy 4 years. I've learned a lot. We've experienced a lot, and really solidified my belief that we have great people working for Crow Wing County. I'm very proud of the people that I represent, the people within our office, and really the capabilities and abilities that we have. We're known as a professional organization. I would put us up against any office within the northern half of the Minnesota, and well, I mean, really across the board with any office in the state of Minnesota for what we're capable of and the people that we have. Our jailers, our dispatchers, patrol staff, and support staff, they do an awesome job of working together, and I'm very proud to lead them in the direction that we need to go. We've implemented a number of new things while I've been here, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done. The program expansion, working with partnerships with community services, our screening process that we've implemented in the jail for all that come in have access to mental health screenings for those that are processed and booked into our jails. Our Brainerd Lakes drug education unit that we worked with the community services to really do our community outreach.
And Scott, you're at time. So
I'm at time. All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And
I've
so
got to look there too.
right over there, yes, yeah. So thank you, Scott. Eric Klang, your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I thank you for all showing up for this good event. I know the commissioners are also happy that the sheriff's debate is first, because this is what draws the crowd. This is a very important position, obviously, and people are interested in who their next sheriff is going to be. I also want to just briefly say that when you guys go home tonight, I want you to pray. I want you to pray for Connor Erickson tonight when you go home. And he's fighting for his life, and I just ask that you do that. I also, all my comments tonight are really going to be directed towards my opponent and not towards the sheriff's office in any way. We do have, like he said, we do have good people at the sheriff's office, and it's just the lack of leadership, actually. The sheriff's election is one of the most important positions that citizens will vote for, and there's a little over 3,000 sheriffs in the whole nation. So this is a very important position. So the next sheriff that leads this agency should have the qualities of being capable, competent, socially astute, emotionally stable, and a leadership ability to bridge partnerships both inside and outside of the county and outside the sheriff's office as well. So with that, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So we're going to transition into our prepared questions. We had Mr. Goddard start with opening statements first, so this first question is going to be directed to Mr. Klang. Why are you running for sheriff, and if you're elected, what will be your top priority?
Well, I think the sheriff's office is in critical condition and needs a proven leader to fix it. As a sheriff, I have the experience of creating positive leadership in organizations. I've done that in 2 different organizations, one where I'm currently at, and also one when I was here at the sheriff's office before, back in 2011. I have a proven track record of success in building people, and it's about building relationships with people. People don't care what you know until they know that you care, so you have to build those relationships, and people they want to be respected and valued, and that's certainly one of the things that we're going to do as a new leader. I don't have a lot of time to go on for my, what things I want to do, but I hopefully during this time I'll be able to bring those to you as we go.
All right, thank you. So same question, Mr. Goddard, why are you running for sheriff? And if you're elected, what will be your top priority?
Well, the reason I'm running is really the same reason I've had in my entire life. I love being a cop. I've always loved being a cop. I've lived here my whole life, and I'm very proud of the work that we do. The biggest thing that I see us facing, and the biggest thing that our challenge is going to be, is our workforce. And when I say workforce, I'm not talking about just the sheriff's office, encompassing all of Crow Wing County and encompassing really everyone in this room that works or is served by a business. Our current market value for a home is above $300,000. And we need people that can make a living wage, that can work here, and be the next generation of who's going to be providing the goods and services that we need throughout our area. So it's not unique just to us, it's unique to all of us, and it's a problem that we're all going to be facing now and in the very near future.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to question number 2. This will be for you, Scott. First, when you look at crime rates in the county, this is a 2-part question. When you look at crime rates in the county, what stands out to you? And how would you reduce crime in Crow Wing County? So I'll read that one more time. When you look at crime rates in the county, what stands out to you? And how would you reduce crime in Crow Wing County? You'd have 1 minute.
This tag is probably going to go with a lot of the questions that I answer tonight, and that's going to come back to mental health. Our crime rates have not really, I would say, have risen or dropped. We did see a slight drop with COVID, which was to be expected. But what we need is more tools with our court systems and with our mental health providers to provide options, because we can pound ourselves to death with the drug problems and the thefts that we have, but until we can work more on the root of the problem and the recidivism rates, we call them frequent flyers. It's people that we deal with all the time. And it is based on their upbringing, use of drugs, use of alcohol, lack of employment. The tools that we need out there are much farther than just law enforcement. It's really encompassing all of Crow Wing County and all of us.
All right, thank you. I'll reread the question for you, Eric Klang. When you look at crime rates in the county, what stands out to you? And how would you reduce crime in Crow Wing County?
Well, I think what Sheriff Goddard said about the mental health, that's certainly a big issue, but I would say another one, a real big one, is the drug problem, the opioid crisis that we have here, and not just here in Crow Wing, but also in the state, across the country for that matter. And this is why it's really important for, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the county, to work collectively, collaboratively with our other partners in law enforcement. We have 11 different police agencies here in Crow Wing County, and we need their help. We need to work together at combating this drug crisis that we have going on here. It's not one agency that can do it. We need to work with our state partners as well. And you know, when I'm elected sheriff, you can count on the fact that we'll be working together collaboratively with our law enforcement partners, which isn't happening at this time.
All right, thank you. Question 3, and we'll stick with Mr. Klang. What is your personal leadership style, and how would you use it to lead the sheriff's department?
My personal relationship style my leadership style is relationships. Like I said before, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So we need to build relationships with our everybody within the county, with our outside partners as well, with all our stakeholders, with our community, and build these partnerships with them. People, I can say a lot of things and sound all fancy and stuff, but you have to really build these relationships with people in order to get messaging across, to get what we want to accomplish across as well.
All right, thank you. Same question, Scott. What is your personal leadership style, and how would you use it to lead the sheriff's department?
I'm going to go back to my boy Paxton, who is in the room here today, and one of his football coaches, and he uses the slogan "Faith, Family, and Football." So I think I'm going to replace that with the Faith, Family, in our office. I truly care for the people that work for the sheriff's office, and I truly care for the people that we serve. And I think Eric and I are always going to be in agreement that you have to care and give of yourself, and to almost a detrimental nature of what we give back to our community. But we also need a leader. We need someone that can stand up, can make tough decisions, can stand behind them, and hold your people accountable. We have to hold our people accountable, and we have to hold our public accountable. And you have to be able to work with and manage and make tough decisions.
All right, thanks. Before we move on to question 4, I just want to remind everyone who's in the room and also watching online, if you do have a question, we'd love to get it to the back of the room for consideration to be asked here tonight. So if you have a question card, please hold it up and they will take it from you. Please indicate also if it's for the sheriff's candidates or the Crow Wing County Commissioner candidates. If you need a question card, please raise your hand as well and we'll get one of those to you. So now we're to question 4. This goes to Scott Goddard first. In your opinion, what are the most effective ways the Sheriff's Department could partner with the public? What are the most effective ways the Sheriff's Department could partner with the public?
Community outreach would be the number one area, but really involvement. And we need to remove, I guess you could say almost a negative aspect of people being fearful to call our office and to share information. And I understand people's concern, within a direct neighbor that they have to live to, and possibly knowing that the neighbor's going to know that they're the one that is calling on them. But think big picture. There's a lot of problems go on that in our communities. And everyone here is eyes and ears of our community. And we need to instill in everyone the responsibility to take action, the responsibility to look out for ourselves and to report. And people are often fearful. Sometimes the biggest thing that a person has ever done is call 911. And a lot of people will not call 911 depending on, no matter what the emergency might be. So we need to really instill in them the ability and the responsibility to work with us, and we will partner back just as strong.
All right, thank you. I'll repeat the question for you. Eric, in your opinion, what are the most effective ways the Sheriff's Department could partner with the public?
Again, I think the Sheriff's Office needs to be, out partnering intentionally with our community, with our civic groups, with our community groups. This Triad is a organization that certainly is a relationship between the Sheriff's Office and the seniors and community groups, helping and protecting seniors from issues that are facing them where people are trying to take advantage of them. We've had, and that's one of the things that I've done when I as the police chief, I would go to the banks and instruct or inform the tellers that people would be coming in here to get money, to withdraw money, to buy gift cards or what have you. And I wanted you to contact me and let me know if that happens, which in fact they did, and we've saved a lot of money from going out of our country overseas.
All right, thank you. So we'll stay with you, Eric, for question 5. With the recent calls for police reform, do you support any changes in officer training, procedures, or funding?
Yeah, I serve on the board for the Minnesota Chiefs Association, and we develop policy and strategy for law enforcement in the 400 agencies across the state, and we're continually working on building things into our law enforcement that protects the community and protects our law enforcement as well. I do support that, and I always have, and I continue to look for ways that we can be better at our jobs and to protect our citizens from tyranny, if you will. So,
Thank you. So, Scott, with the recent calls for police reform, do you support any changes in officer training, procedures, or funding?
Yes, obviously is my answer for continued training. Training is what law enforcement uses every single day. We're constantly going back through the files in our mind to find an answer to the question or the situation that we're dealing with. The Minnesota Sheriff's Association, there's only 87 sheriffs, 87 counties. We have a very strong voice with our lobbyists and with the legislature on POST standards. And POST is Minnesota Post Board, which is Peace Officers Standards and Training. And it defines what requirements and what responsibilities agencies have and what they must follow. And this year alone, we've had a strong voice. I recently just penned one letter in voice of opposition of some of the standards, the way they were approached. So They are going to be revisited. Our lobbyist is going to be working towards them, and we're looking to have a stronger picture of really what we look for. And the key points are what we see in the news. That's really what we're dealing with in today's world.
All right, thank you. And I'll remind both candidates that you still are about halfway through the prepared questions, but you do still have the opportunities for 30-second additional comments or rebuttals should you want them. Question 6, this goes to Scott Goddard first. If elected, how would you deal with increased law enforcement challenges around mental health?
Oh, good question, Matt. And it's one that we're battling every single day. You know, we were fortunate here in the Brainerd area to have the state hospital, which had a facility with, at peak times, was hundreds of beds. The model was not well. I mean, it was not the model we wanted. But our lack of bed space across the state is what is absolutely detrimental to every community in the state of Minnesota. We are fighting, and when I say we, through our community services and our courts, are fighting every day to find rooms or beds available statewide and even into North Dakota for people that are in our community. And we are in the same fight with someone else competing for that same bed. Lack of space is the biggest problem that we're facing. And right behind that, we need to be in our schools. I would like to see a counselor assigned to every school beyond what current capacity is. If we can go up with 200 people, gets one counselor, whatever system we could get, so kids have access to it at any time.
All right, thank you. So Eric, same question. If elected, how would you deal with increased law enforcement challenges around mental health?
Yeah, mental health challenges has really been a struggle for all law enforcement to deal with. We have a lot of, most of our calls have a lot to do with mental health, and they're sad calls. But we need to work together with our professionals, with our social service folks, people that know and understand mental health. It's not, it shouldn't be on our officers to do that. They don't have the time to spend there. We need to engage, and we need to partner with our social services to be out on those calls, to funnel those calls to them as we do it, as we see it happening in real time, so they can address it right away instead of waiting for this big crisis to happen. If we can intervene beforehand, we'll have better success in dealing with those people that are struggling with our mental health.
All right, thank you. Question 7 then goes to you, Eric, first. What is the most valuable lesson that you've learned in your career as a law enforcement officer? What is the most valuable lesson that you've learned in your career as a law enforcement officer?
Oh, I think, I guess, probably just listening to people. I think a lot of people just want to be heard, and they want to be listened to. They want to know that what they say matters. And it's easy as a law enforcement officer to get into this routine of, just checking the boxes and then moving on to the next call. But when you spend time with people and you get to really dig in and talk to them, I would say that it's just spending time and building a relationship with them. And even though you may not even agree with them, you don't like the way they handle themselves, that's okay. We're not all going to agree together, but you can still treat that person with respect and dignity that they deserve.
All right, thank you. And Scott, what is the most valuable lesson that you've learned in your career as a law enforcement officer?
I will continue right on with what Eric said. Some of us coin it alphabet soup. We have to be able to talk, and we have to be able to listen, and it is very important. My son is interested in law enforcement. My daughter was not, and I stressed on both of them, take speech classes. Learn how to communicate with others. And so much of that is lost in today's world with text, with online talking, with chat lines, everything else. But the nuts and bolts of what we do in law enforcement, you could train, and I often say is you could train anyone to do this job, but you have to be able to talk. And as a previous field training officer, I saw that. We saw some people that simply couldn't engage, and you have to have that gift. You have to be able to talk, you have to be able to listen, and think on your feet. You really have to be able to think on your feet and make decisions and stand by them.
All right. We're going to move on to our final 3 prepared questions, and I'd like to just encourage you, if you do have a completed question card, raise your hand, we'll get that to you. To our Facebook viewers as well, you're just much a part of this as anybody. Please write your comments into Facebook, and we'll take those under consideration for the many questions I'm sure they're getting at the back table. Question 8 to Scott Goddard first. What experience do you have in managing a budget and working through financial challenges? What experience do you have managing a budget and working through financial challenges?
I wish it was interactive because I'd ask the commissioners how many years we had a 0% levy, but I can't pull it off the top of my head. I've been involved in management level decision making and budgeting for, since 2007 when I took over as boat and water sergeant and took over the boat and water division or the recreational division. So I've had my hands in it ever since. Budget work never stops. We start early in the year, and right now we're looking at finalizing our preliminary levy. Was right in the process. I guess I don't know where we're at. I don't want to speak too much, but in the process of being set. But we've had a number of challenges through the years too, because the county board and the commissioners tasked us with coming back at 0% levy, and it does become very challenging. Our biggest cost is our employees, number one, and really our services in the jail are our 2 biggest costs, and they're set costs, and they're hard to get around those costs. But we've been very fortunate for the teamwork we've had.
All right, thank you. Eric, what experience do you have in managing a budget and working through financial challenges?
Well, when I was with the county, things seemed to be a lot easier. But now as I went to the city, now they nickel and dime me to death. So it's I think I've become an expert on budgeting, trying to finagle ways to cut money. 85% of our budget, the sheriff's budget, goes to employees, and then the rest of it is where your priorities are at. And there's, a lot of these costs are set, like vehicles and gas, equipment, and we have no control over that. There's quite a bit of, we're not in the business of making money. We spend money. And that's always hard for people to hear, but it's true. We don't bring money in. We're not a revenue generator. We spend money. So to ask us to save money somewhere is impossible, because costs still continue to go up.
All right, thank you. This is question number 9. This stays to you, Eric. What is something that you wish the public knew about the Sheriff's Department or law enforcement officers in general? What is something that you wish the public knew about the Sheriff's Department or law enforcement officers in general?
Well, I will say that we have a lot of good people working at the Sheriff's Office. We have a lot of good people. We've lost 14 people in the last year, and we have good pay and we have good benefits. And people don't leave because of pay and benefits. They leave because of poor leadership. And unfortunately, that's the reality of it. And that's one of the things that I'm definitely going to have to work on. This will be a work in progress. So we talk about retention and recruitment. It's going to be a challenge for retaining and recruiting people. But I'm up for the challenge, and I will make those changes, because it's about treating people right. It's about being fair. It's about respecting. It's about valuing employees.
All right, thank you. Scott, same question. What is something that you wish the public knew about the Sheriff's Department or law enforcement officers in general?
I guess I'm guessing I get an extra 30 seconds then, since for a rebuttal and add.
You can take an extra 30 after your minute.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
So go ahead.
So I guess just to expand or maybe to contrast a little bit of what Eric said, we're not unique on turnover. Forbes just came out not too long ago with a survey from 25 to 35-year-olds, professionals, which we are in our office, professionals, over a 60% turnover. Over a 60% turnover over the last 2 years or in the future 2 years. When we look at where our staffing is going to be, we're lucky to capture that person for a 4 to 6 year range. We've had a number of retirements the last few years, not just this last year, that have hit us very hard. And getting good people is hard, but we will not lower our standards. We've held high standards, and we've been able to find good people to replace us. Here's a scary number. One of the biggest agencies in the nation sent out over 2,000 invitations, to come and test. Take a guess in your mind how many. Out of 2,000, take a guess in your mind how many showed up. 25. Out of that 25, guess how many made it through the first round of tests? 2. Our numbers are better than that when we're doing our advertising and our testing. This is a tough job to get into. It's a tough job to stay in. And I don't blame anybody for getting out. It's very tasking. It's very rewarding, but it's very tasking. Thank you.
All right.
I'll use my 30 seconds. You know, when I said people leave because of poor leadership, there was a study that they did, and it was an outside source that did a study, an engagement survey study, at the sheriff's office was one of them. All the department heads where all the departments were done, and it was most of these are 94% survey return rates. You can see the sheriff's office with all that red up there. There was like 54% of survey returns, and people had not very good things to say about the sheriff's office. Matter of fact, they were disengaged, they were disgruntled, and so. You know, when I say that there's failed leadership, you know, don't listen to me. Look at this. Look at this.
All right, you're at time.
Sorry.
You're at time. All right. Thank you. This is the last prepared question. This goes to Scott Goddard first. What do you believe is the most significant difference between you and your opponent in this race?
We're both good guys. I'm not going to lie. You know, I like Eric. I don't believe in his philosophies. We have completely different approaches of how our office should be ran. But that's to be expected. You know what I ask when people ask me, how are things going, and the negative comments I've heard them. You know, the keyboard warriors, etc., that are out there. Some of the negative comments that are out there, I say talk to our people. You know, when we've got some great people that are coming in our door from NYPD. We got one guy from New York Police Department. We've got one from LA. We've got one from Minneapolis. And to hear them come back and say, you know, I hear these negative comments. I love it here. And I'm proud of the work we've done. I think Eric and I have a lot of philosophies that are similar, but I think our approach and our overall gain is different.
All right, thank you. Same question. What do you believe is the most significant difference between you and your opponent in this race?
You don't hire the best people and tell them what, and you don't hire the best people like he says that we do, and we do. Our standards are very high. And you don't hire the best people and tell them what to do. You hire the best people and have them tell you what to do. You hire the best people and you inspire them to be the best. And how do you do it? You've all worked for businesses. You've all worked for bosses, rather, that have not inspired you at all. But you've worked for bosses that have inspired you, and look at the difference of the product or the outcome of that. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Actually, what was the last part of that question, quickly?
We'll give him 10 seconds because he has 10 seconds left. What do you believe is the most significant difference between you and your opponent in this race?
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So with that, we have reached the end of our prepared questions, and now we're into the questions submitted by our audience, both in person and online, and this is the first one. This goes to you, Eric. First, do you believe Crow Wing County has a human trafficking issue? And if so, what are your plans to effectively reduce it?
Well, you know, I speak about human trafficking, and I think there are issues that are facing our communities. I think we have people that are being trafficked, and those are, you know, the way that we go after those. I mean, I'm not going to give away all our secrets, but we need to continue to do that to find those that are looking for. You know, those predators that are out looking for our young girls and attempting to traffic them, not only traffic them, but also, you know, labor trafficking as well, is definitely a problem in our area. I have a lot of stories to tell you, but I only got 10 seconds here left, and I can't tell you them, but we do have a problem with it, and it is a priority for me to address these issues. A lot of you guys don't even know about them. Because it's not part of your privy, and you're not interested in even knowing about it, and you probably don't want to know about it. But I want you to know that I'm worried about it and that I know about it.
All right, thank you. Scott, do you believe Crow Wing County has a human trafficking issue? And if so, what are your plans to effectively reduce it?
Our plan is already in place to effectively reduce it. Do we have a problem? Yes. Is it hidden? Yes. Is it oftentimes undiscovered? Yes. You know, our runaway problem or our runaway population is one of the keynote areas that are often identified as being a focus point for those predators. We are very proud to have implemented our ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children. We're an affiliated member with the BCA, with the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. We are an affiliated member with them, and then we work with them in doing just such cases. So has it become more of a limelight? Yes. Good positive thing that we see of social media is trying to raise awareness on that, and we've seen a dramatic uptick in interest in it. But again, we need your help. If you see, you know, someone young, maybe just doesn't fit the mold or is walking down the street alone, call us, let us know. We can go out and check. Maybe it is a runaway that possibly could be taken advantage of. We're more than happy to go check. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll stay with you, Scott, for the next audience question. In what ways will you work effectively with police chiefs across the county?
Well, we work with police chiefs across the county. You know, we've got a number of agencies. We've got a number of full-time and a number of part-time agencies. There's, I guess, in the law enforcement spectrum, there's really no secret that after the last election, I think there's been some really tough feelings that have never went away. But our job is to serve the people of Crow Wing County. There's a number of agencies that we have that do not work 24/7, and we end up covering calls for service for them and assisting in those bigger incidences or those bigger cases that happen across the county. I grew up in a small area, grew up in Pequot Lakes. My first job was Breezy Point. My second job was Pequot Lakes, where Eric is at. So I see the value and the need for agencies, and we're always a strong partner.
All right, thank you. Eric, in what ways will you work effectively with police chiefs across the county?
Yeah, well, I currently do that right now. I'm bridging the gap between our police departments. We don't look at police departments as one's better than another. And unfortunately, this current administration, or Scott specifically, has had some big challenges with other law enforcement agencies. And we're just one beggar telling another beggar where the food is. I mean, we want to work together. We want the same goal. But you know, some people are building silos and or burning bridges, really. And that just can't happen. That does a disservice to the community, because we don't, you know, our criminals go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. They just don't stay in one area. So it's imperative that we work together with all law enforcement agencies so that we can, you know, we can be the biggest fighters against crime that we can. We're a relatively small number of law enforcement officers, and we need each other so that we can combat crime.
All right, thank you. So we will stay with you here, Eric, for the next audience question. How would you keep officer attitude positive? This is a two-part question. Yeah. How would you keep officer attitude positive, and how would you recruit new officers to the area?
Yes, well, recruitment and retention is going to be is definitely a challenge for law enforcement all over the place. But again, once we identify somebody that we want to work for us, there's different ways that we can do it. One of the ways that I thought about as far as retaining is by providing, daycare for our officers. I want to really work on mental health, mental wellness with our officers, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. Can you imagine if you had those four things that were going right in your life, how happy you would be, how happy your family would be? And I believe that same thing with our officers. They need the tools, they need an on-site person to help walk them through those things. And the idea of providing child care for our officers would be a big, I definitely want to look at that and definitely want to consider that to offer that to our employees. Not just at the sheriff's office, but the county-wide as well.
All right, thank you. Scott, that same two-part question, how would you keep officer attitude positive, and how would you recruit new officers to the area?
To keep them positive, I think we've got a number of tools already in place. Really our employee recognition. We provide a lot of opportunities for our staff, and kudos to them for stepping up, really divisions wide, helping out. I just made a short list on earlier today, soup kitchen, Salvation Army, Red Kettle, ditch cleanups, Escape with a Cop, the fairs, the different activities that we go out to, the fingerprintings that we do across the county, really keeping them engaged. Now, as for how we get those people, we're doing it right now. And Eric mentioned mental health. We started a mental health initiative with our staff 2 years ago, where we put about a significant amount of money. We're actually afforded a grant from our local hospital here to give every person in our office a chance to sit down and have a one-on-one with a psychologist annually. And we also funded additional resources for them to have someone to reach out if they were in a situation that they needed. And that's been used very heavily by our staff.
All right, thank you. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, this is an employee, struggle for employees to, you distracted me now. Being able to keep employees happy is always a challenge, but you do that through respect and value. You want to respect and value, and you want to know what they say matters. So that's how we keep employees happy, by providing them with that with those things.
Okay, thank you. I believe we're going to stay with you for this next one. We actually only have 2 left. Are there any programs in the Sheriff's Department that lends to the deputies maintaining healthy lifestyles, emotional and physical? Let me ask that one more time. Are there any programs in the Sheriff's Department that lends to the deputies maintaining healthy lifestyles, emotional and physical?
Well, not that I'm aware of. And that's one of the things that I want to bring in or to highlight at the Sheriff's Office, is doing those spiritual, mental, physical, financial things for our officers, is so that they can be well-grounded and be better servers to the community. And when I do become sheriff, that'll be one of the priorities that I'll be doing and bringing in.
Okay, thank you. Scott, same question. Are there any programs in the Sheriff's Department that lends to the deputies maintaining healthy lifestyles, both emotional and physical?
Yes, and first, it's not a department, it's an office. One clarification there. We work with HR every day. We have employee wellness for all of our employees, and it's not just narrowed down to our deputies either. As I just mentioned, our mental health initiative, our Human Resources Director is going to be meeting and highlighting the work that we have done to provide the tools to our people, reference to mental health and the problems that they're facing. Our weight room is state-of-the-art. Paxton, my boy, I mentioned him earlier, but he loves to go out and work out in the weight room at the school, and he came down and saw ours, and he went, oh my gosh, great majority of which was donated to our facility. If you haven't seen our new facility, it's state-of-the-art. We took an old building from the ground up and made it new. and it's a wonderful facility. We treat our people well. Human Resources is a great partner to have, and engagement, really that entire encompassing question, Matt, I think we handle it, and we handle it above what would be expected.
All right, thank you. So this is the final question from the audience before we move into your closing statements. This question reads, and I believe we're at Scott here to go first. How does or would the Constitution, I'm assuming they mean the U.S. Constitution, so let me read that again. How does or would the U.S. Constitution impact your role in decision-making as sheriff?
I got this question probably 300 times at the fair. Am I a constitutional sheriff? And my answer, or my question always back is, define a constitutional sheriff to me, because I've never found one that I like. We are not mentioned in the Constitution. A lot of people have the belief that the sheriff is mentioned in the Constitution. We are not. But my short answer and long answer on it is, I am elected by the people. I stand for the people of Crow Wing County. I do not answer to the governor. I do not answer to really anyone besides you and my partners that we're working with. And I don't mean that in a negative light, but go back to COVID, there was a lot of questions and conjecture of supposedly working with the Department of Health, which is not true. We looked out for businesses. We went out of our way to help dock companies. Remember, we couldn't even do dock companies at one time. Dock companies weren't allowed to put docks in. And racetrack, and I'll even throw in plural, that ended up being benefits of the work that we did. So do I take the Constitution seriously? Absolutely. But we are not mentioned in it, and it does not play a role as a lot of people think it does.
All right, thank you. Same question to Eric Klang.
Yep.
How does or would the U.S. Constitution impact your role in decision-making as sheriff?
Well, I'm a constitutionalist, conservative Christian. And everything, my decision making comes from that. My core comes from that. I work for the people of Crow Wing County, and as the people elect me, those are the people that I work for. I don't know what else to say than I'm a constitutionalist, conservative Christian. And I believe wholeheartedly in it. That's all I have.
All right. Well, that concludes the audience questions for tonight. Thanks for everyone who submitted one or more. Really appreciate that. We're just a little bit earlier than I thought we were. We're actually 3 minutes before we thought we'd get done. So before we do closing statements, I'm going to tell you guys, why don't we do 1.5 minutes for closing statements as long as we have the time. And I believe, Eric, your closing statement would be first.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thanks again for coming tonight. These questions are relatively short. If you have any other follow-up questions, please reach out and touch base with me. You can call me anytime, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have. The next sheriff that leads this agency, though, does need to have those qualities that I mentioned earlier: being competent, socially astute, emotionally stable, and leadership ability to bridge partnerships that have been broken, that have been severed. And I've done that in the past. I have a proven track record for that. If you, go ahead and Google me and Google my opponent, and that'll let you know who the best candidate is for this position. I've worked over 3 decades in law enforcement, and I have, I have a track record of making good decisions. You won't find anything about me in a negative light, because I do the right thing in the right way for the right reason at the right time. Thank you very much.
All right. Your closing statement, 1.5 minutes, Scott Goddard.
If a lot of people in this room, I know, have already, kind of come to one side or another. There's probably very few that haven't come in with a little bit of a preview. And I guess for those that don't know a lot about me, I just want to share some information about myself. I grew up here. My family all lives here. I'm very proud to have my kids go to Pequot Lakes High School.
And I want to ensure that we have the best services for the public. That's my job. Very short and sweet. Commissioners, if you have questions on my performance, I encourage you to reach out to them. Reach out to our county administrator, reach out to our partners, reach out to our staff that are in this room and ask them how I'm doing. Really get your own gauge on who you think would be the best candidate. I'm confident in saying that I am. The rest of my time, I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a turn here, and I want to give a kudos to our current county commissioners and our county administrator in the job that they do. Mr. Barrows, I work very well with you, and I appreciate the work that you have done, and specifically you and Rosemary Franzine. Where is Rosemary? I guess I lost her. Rosemary, I would like to thank you for your hard work through a number of years, and I wish you both successful in your upcoming campaigns. Thank you.
All right. Well, that concludes tonight's forum. Let's give one more round of applause to the candidates. You can find more candidate and voting information, I believe, out in the hall. Remember to vote. Election day is Tuesday, November 8th, and early voting begins Friday, September 3rd. Please go to I'm sorry, 23rd. Thank you, Steve. I'll circle that on the script, September 23rd. Please go to vote411.org for accurate information regarding your voter registration, what's on your ballot, and ways to vote. On behalf of the Chamber, the League of Women Voters, and the Brainerd Dispatch, thank you for being here. We'll now take a brief break and then transition to the Crow Wing County Commissioners Forum. Thanks, everybody.